Hey folks, Brendan here from Bluelight. If you're working towards the police recruitment process, or you're actually in the police at the moment and you're looking to succeed in a specialist interview, promotion, or in a transfer process, then you'll already be familiar with this, the competency and values framework for policing. And you'll have come across this as well, the wheel of confusion, as I like to call it. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you why you're absolutely wasting your time trying to understand the CVF and the route to success in the police recruitment process or in promotion, specialist interviews, whatever assessment they put in front of you, whether it's an entry exercise, a briefing exercise, a good old-fashioned interview, role plays. It doesn't matter what it is. The key to success is to have a systematic process, an approach which you can utilize over and over again. No matter what the scenario is to give you, you can adopt the same approach, whether it's a role play, entry exercise, briefing, interview, some kind of group exercise. It doesn't matter. Follow a systematic approach, and I'm going to tell you what some of those are in a moment. And you won't need to worry about this, because all of the behaviors that you're being assessed against will just fall out of the sky, metaphorically. Does that make sense? I mean, there's a good reason why you're going to struggle to understand this. First of all, we look at the wheel of confusion and see that there's 6 competencies and there's 4 values. The values sit in the middle for some strange reason, and they only have 1 level, but the competencies have 3 levels, and they come in clusters of 2 that don't seem to associate themselves very well. And there's lots of big words to describe the clusters, like resolute, compassionate, and committed, which has something to do with being emotionally aware and we take ownership. Deliver, support, and inspire, we are collaborative, which is all about inclusive, enabling, and visionary leadership. And then you actually read the descriptors and find that they make very little sense at all. They're written in HR gobbledygook language. And then you discover that they all cross over. So one of the questions that's always asked, nearly always asked at any interview in the police sector, is around decision making. Either a time when you've had to analyse different sources of information in order to make a decision, a time when you made a difficult decision, you've had to account for that decision to others, or a difficult decision where there were 2 sides and you had to choose from one of those sides. And you're thinking, oh, which competency is that from? Well, no one knows, that's the thing, because in impartiality, the value of impartiality, it talks about making decisions. In the value of transparency, it talks about making decisions. How making decisions is a value, I do not know. And then you get to analyse critically, where again, it talks about making decisions, except that one is at 3 different levels. Confused? I don't blame you. I mean, I studied for a Masters in Education when I was in police training back in the day. Spent 3.5 years slogging my guts out, doing research into personnel evaluation systems within the police sector. Yes, I geeked out on that kind of stuff. I don't get it neither. So what we're going to do instead, we are going to, I've just written down some of the actual systems that we can utilize. So things like interview answers, we're going to use a systematic process called SALQ, which stands for situation, aim, actions, result, learning, knowledge, and understanding. And there's different constituent parts of that. If you cover off all of that, and you have sufficient depth in your answer, then you are going to nail your interview answers. When it comes to entry exercises, we can use the Eisenhower matrix, which looks at a matrix of urgency and importance. It was President Eisenhower who once said, things that are urgent are seldom important, and things that are important are seldom urgent. What he's trying to say is that everything can't be urgent and important, because if everything is a priority, nothing is. So in a lot of exercises, entry exercises, relying on using your analytical capability to come up with a systematic approach to how you're going to organise your working day, whether it be for a sergeant's promotion board or as the Metropolitan Police utilised for their detective assessment to go in for direct entry detective. And we're going to mix that with the Thrive method of analysing and determining risk. We're not going to go as far as a Thrive Plus before anyone asks. Role plays, we're going to use CUDSA, which is a non-contact conflict management model, which I've adapted from the police sector. It stands for confront, understand, define and summarize, seek solutions, assess and monitor and result. And once again, there's different constituent parts of that. You can apply that to any role play, absolutely any role play. And actually so many of my thousands of clients over the years tell me that they actually utilize that model. Now they're successful and actually in the police. What else can we use? Online assessment centers, stage 3 briefing and the stage 3 written. They tell you that you don't need to have any knowledge of policing. Oh yes you do, because they're giving you a scenario which is very much a policing scenario to deal with. So we need to do some problem solving. So we are going to utilize SARA, PAT, and a problem solving technique which looks at the the response part of SARA, which stands for scanning, analysis, response and assessment. But the response part, we're going to utilize something called TPAC, which is something I utilized when I was a neighbourhood inspector. Don't bother looking it up, you won't find it. That stands for trust building, enforcement, prevention, advocacy and communication. So in everything you do, you include all 5 of those elements. What else? Forward-facing questions. The bane of any promotion board. Well, it's not that difficult, because we can use and adapt the SINEX circles. Why something's important, what you're going to do and how you're going to do it, and what's it going to result in. And for the what and how, we can utilize a model of something called appreciative inquiry, which is going to completely amaze your interview board. Role plays, we can go on to utilize the 4 E's, the 5-stage appeals process. In any briefing exercise, especially the direct entry detective ones, we can utilize something called II March, which is a briefing model. Utilize that in its constituent parts, and all you've got to do is to drop the information in and you'll have an outstanding briefing. Within that, we've got things like the 5 pillars of any criminal investigation and the golden hour concepts. In terms of community building, we're going to utilize something called the 4 C's. Don't bother looking it up. It's something I've come up with over the years. I've utilized it as a neighbourhood inspector, and it works, it works, it works. And it's based on research. So is TPAC. TPAC is based on research. The 4 C's is when we're looking for people in the community who we're going to be advocates for. We're going to enable them as citizens. We're going to adopt a citizen enable approach as opposed to a public servant approach, which fits in nicely actually with Sir Robert Peel's principles that the police are the public and the public are the police. The police just being members of the public who are paid full time to carry out a role which is incumbent on all citizens in the interests of community welfare and existence. So how do we get community welfare and existence? Well, we need to recognise that crime doesn't exist in isolation. It exists with other complex areas. So we thought we were doing a good job referring people from social services to housing to child services. No, we're not. We're not doing a good job at all, because we're not working collaboratively. So we're going to form a working group, and that working group is going to be made up of interested stakeholders and members of the community who are demonstrating the 4 C's. They are capable individuals who are connected in the community. They care enough to act, and they're committed to take action. There we go. And we're going to invest in them, be advocates for the community so they can help build a strong, cohesive community. These are all phrases you can use, by the way, in your assessments, in your interviews, in your briefings, in your role plays. What else can we use? Oh, don't even get me started on the intensive engagement 8-step community engagement process. Why do you want to be a police officer? Why you? Why now? Why do you want to be a sergeant? We use the timeline process where we talk about the experience we've gained and the skills we've developed and the knowledge that we've developed as a result of that, and what value you're going to be able to add as a result of those things. Who's inspired you? Who's motivated you? We've got a model for everything. Now, that's just touching, actually that's not touching on the surface. That's like most of the main key models and systems that we utilize here at Bluelight. You don't have to know them all, you don't have to understand them all, because it depends whether you're going for an interview, a role play, a briefing, it doesn't, presentation, entry exercise, written exercise, group exercise. All of these things you'll adapt and utilize all of those different models, and I promise you I've mapped them all out to this. I geek out on this stuff, so all of those systems and processes, all of them are mapped out to the behaviours. You don't have to worry about the CVF then. That's why you're wasting your time trying to understand the CVF. Learn how to approach each one of the exercises in a detailed and structured way, and you will nail the behaviours that they're looking for. Want to find out more? Well, check the links below to all of the different services I provide, the Facebook groups, the one-to-one coaching, the webinars, the seminars, the online courses, the books, everything you need to succeed in the police recruitment process. I've been coaching and supporting people for years for this. Over 12,000 people are now in the police as a result of my support, and several hundred police officers have been promoted and got into specialist departments as a result of my support. So you're in the right place, folks. Check the links below, come and join the Blue Light community, and I'll see you soon.